exit in 2022. The Murang'a governor is eyeing for top seat in 2022 through his Civic Renewal Party, CRP.
By Kiambu youth leaders who registered interest to support Governor Mongo Eria for presidency and also support him as the incoming president 2022. And we are very grateful for the people of Kiambu and especially the young people who feels that there's hope even after the presidency of those elements across the country that are saying that there shall not be another Kikuyu president. That is highest form of abuse of human rights and constitution and Article 38 of the Constitution that give every Kenyan right to contest any seat if he is above 18 years old. It is individuals who contest, it's not community.
Tutaachwa yatima kama hatutakubaliana. Tutaachwa yatima kama mtu anaweza enda kwa National TV aseme Mount Kenya hakuna viongozi na tutawaletea viongozi.
Political aspirants in the country have called for radical changes in the political landscape to allow them to be incorporated in the government after elections. And as Eli Logova now reports, the political aspirants want the government to come up with policies which can allow runners-up to secure spots in either the two levels of government.
As the clamor for constitutional amendments gain momentum in the country, political leaders continue to align themselves ready to battle for the changes being proposed in the constitution through the BBI report. Political leaders have since disintegrated as some support the changes while others oppose any constitutional amendment. Under the National Aspirants Forum, political aspirants have noted that the negative effects of winner-takes-it-all politics was clear since it had created an entitled political class that won't hesitate to bend any rule in their pursuit of powers and wealth. The aspirants now calling for changes in the political landscape.
We have seen cases where even the party leaders have crushed all the political party structures and replaced them with a parliamentary group. When they want to sanitize or satanize the political parties' issues, they call the parliamentary groups.
The aspirants are of opinion that political party leaders have for the longest time crushed all the party structures and replaced them with political groups, with those elected and those who contested being left out awaiting the next elections. They want the government to come up with the policies which can allow runners-up to secure a spot in either the two levels of government and foster more development in their respective fields.
Hata wakati huu tunajaribu sana kuinvolve the registrar of political parties. Kwamba wao wakisema kwamba zile katiba za chama ambazo zinapelekwa kule kwa registrar of political parties ziwe na ile clause ambayo inaonyesha kwamba aspirants ambao waliweza kusimama kwenye vyama zao wanashirikishwa katika kila hali kwa vyama.
The aspirants are currently working with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, Registrar of Political Parties and other relevant stakeholders to ensure they incorporate their views. Eli Logova, TV47.
And obviously, if the conversations continue, it's a clear indication that politically we'll move from that point where we always say winner has to take it all, and hence the conversation that is ongoing as to whether indeed there is need for a referendum. And now let's proceed over to a different segment altogether as we take a look at the newspapers after this break. And in the next 18 minutes or so, we take a look at the newspapers. Frank Anyona, who's a youth leader, joins me for the same as we take a look at the key stories that have been captured on the People Daily and the Standard newspaper. Right here, the People Daily with me, and the front page, or the biggest story, why governors want the Senate dissolved, and county bosses accuse senators of failing to pass the revenue allocation formula, stalling services in the regions. And you know, this is the conversation that has been ongoing. This is a story that has extensively been captured on page 2. Maybe we can roll down and see. Yes, governors threatened to trigger Senate closure, and the governors want Senate committee investigated over extortion claims. So you've been following up on the events of this, and we all thought that the committee is going to give a solution in regards to the stalemate of sharing revenue across the different parts of the counties or the different parts of the countries. But clearly, the end is not nigh. So the governors decry the fact that activities have stalled up at the level of the county. They have even gone to a point of threatening that they are going to close down activities if this is not addressed ASAP. What do you make of it, Anyona?
Yes, Linda, thank you very much for yet another moment this morning.
You're welcome.
I think for the first time, I'm going to side with the governor.
Okay.
I don't like the way majority of our governors are governing the counties. But on this, there's a Kiswahili proverb that says, Mugala muue na haki yake umpe. I believe that the governors are being frustrated because this issue has been politicized. It's something that was a very simple matter, but you can see the way people are politicizing it to appear as though certain communities are going to benefit from the whole revenue allocation that is going, the new revenue allocation. So I think that to some extent our Senate has failed. I don't expect them to be receiving orders from the executive so that they can act. They are people with sane minds. That is why they were elected. And it's a shame when most of the senators have to receive orders from the head of state for them to come up with certain policies.
They have gone. Some of them have gone against. Some of them have gone against the proposal of the head of state, and looking at the numerous sessions that they have conducted, they have had to a point of getting committees. Not the first time, you know, a clear indication that maybe it's not as easy as we might all assume it is. It's not as simple as enshrined in the Constitution. Is it really fair to point a finger at them for having failed the state, or maybe they're just taking time so that eventually they would get the right solution to this?
I mean, first of all, on the issue of some senators siding, going against the state, I think majority of them, although these are good examples, like the likes of Senator Sakaja, who've really stood their ground to be independent-minded while debating on this matter. But there are very many other senators who are a bad example, including the new majority leader and the majority whip. I don't believe that the way they're handling this issue is for the benefit of the people. It appears as though they want to please the head of state, which is not the correct thing for this country. We should be able to make policies that that will benefit common mwananchi. And these leaders, including the senators, they should listen to the people more than receiving orders from the executive. And I think the executive should, you know, this habit of the executive, they go to parliament, they want to bulldoze parliament, to senate, to other institutions like the judiciary, IEBC. And I was saying here, soon they'll even come for the media, and the media has been independent. I think it's time that these institutions start operating. I'll repeat again, senators were elected because Kenyans believed in them. But when you realize that even themselves, I don't know whether it's a low self-esteem that they have to consult everything with the head of state, then we are going into a very wrong direction. This is something that ought to have been solved long time ago, because the money that was supposed to be disbursed to the counties, let us not forget that people are dying in hospitals. Even doctors have started striking. So what is the work of Senate if they cannot resolve? What if we were at war with a country or any other serious crisis? This is a very small matter that they have failed. And they need to explain to the people of this country.
All right, so as we take a look at what direction that will take, we certainly hope that indeed that the stalemate is going to be addressed as soon as possible, because this threat coming from the level of the counties is indeed a situation that would pose lots of threats on matters devolution. And speaking of which, the main reason why we are here today, or the stalemate is becoming ripe, or is even becoming more and more, is simply because there are some certain tribes, certain regions that feel like, if the formula is to be adopted, that is a 1 shilling, 1 man, 1 vote, it will be a clear indication that some counties will be marginalized, some regions will be marginalized, that the entire process will not be fair to some regions. So in the quest of getting a fair ground for every other region, this is where we have landed. And speaking of which, there's a report here that has been captured on the front page of the People Daily and equally on the front page of the Standard newspaper. Says no room for small tribes in public service jobs, and a clear indication that tribe is still a factor. And instead of people using tribe or ethnicity to pride in what it is that they stand as a people, they use tribe to marginalize others. They use tribe to look down on others, to, act, as though they are the bigger brothers. And, the left that feel inferior are the ones who lose so much. So what does it speak of the nation? One, have we in a huge way devolutionized this is tribalism? Have we in a huge way praised tribalism to a point whereby it's an undoing to us?
First of all, on the issue of there's something you raised there about some communities getting more than others or something like that. I want to demystify that fact, because it's actually the main cause of the problem that we are in right now. My understanding of this whole aspect of 1 man, one shilling, is that money will be allocated to counties based on the population of people, which I don't think is a bad thing per se, because even if you look, I was using my senator from Nyamira as a good example. There are so many people from Nyamira who are staying outside compared to those who are in Nyamira right now. The population, there's a huge population of cases in Kiambu, in Nairobi, in Wajir, in Murang'a. So let us use the population instead of the other. I think it's a very wrong way of looking at things when we start saying that community A will lose community B. Yet this is a free country where anybody is free to settle anywhere and free to conduct businesses without disturbance from any quarter. So I think to some extent these senators, that is why I say they are playing politics with the whole issue. I don't care which side the executive supports or doesn't, but let us be right on this one. I think they are misguiding our people, inciting them against one another, telling them that community A is going to get more than community B, which is not true. Because this money, if an amount is being sent to Kiambu, for example, how many Luos are in Kiambu or how many Luyas are in Kiambu? They are going to get services in the same county that they are. Even when we look at the issue of jobs. I think to some extent, I don't want to believe that the small tribes are being targeted. I think that one I'll have to give credit that at least any institution you go, you'll find a number of different communities. This I think it's a wrong narrative, because even those who've done mathematics will tell you that automatically, if my tribe has a population of 600,000, for instance, and there's a tribe A that has a population of about 3 million, they are likely to be more in offices by virtue of their numbers. So you are likely to find them, I think, in various offices because of their high population. So I think to this extent, Kenya is a good country apart from corruption, and others have been to a few offices here and there, institutions, and I find at least the face of Kenya represented. You will find a Somali, a Taita, at least in a proper representation way.
That's a unique view right
So
there, as opposed to what, again, the report dictates. And in a country where we have about 44 tribes, only the top 6 tribes share the bulk of the public jobs. And, in as much as maybe there could be the majority, reality is that then again, this is equally felt, hence pushing the rest of the others to feel like, they are not being well represented. Hence the conversation of having the regional balance across, different sectors of the government. So at least would be able to strike this balance and get the other tribes also feeling like they're part and parcel of the country, part and parcel of the government, and part and parcel of leadership. That aside, and
I think, Linda, what can be done to solve such an issue is to stop corruption. The moment we stop corruption, people will be getting jobs fairly, regardless of tribe, so that when you apply, at least you know that I have the requirements and I'll be able to pass. The reason why sometimes we feel like certain communities is employing their people only is because maybe of that corruption and nepotism. So if we stop that, I think it will be fair enough.
All right, we wait and see how just this is going to be possible, because again, the conversation on stopping corruption has been one that, has gotten very many of people having, a toll on the way they have addressed this, sort of, arguing that maybe we might not even be able to deal with it based on the hypocritic nature or hypocrisy that is being witnessed with the individuals that are said to help the country deal with corruption. And speaking of corruption, Governor Okoth Obado, and now ODM claims Obado is organizing violence, and this amid talks of an impeachment being rife, and that call by ODM that it's necessary that we proceed because the people have lacked confidence in the office of Obado, captured on page 6, and also on matters corruption still, Man in Eye, COVID-19 fund storm, and Dr. Manjari has made headlines, as you can see right here, in the past for his exemplary public work. However, for his role in KEMSA, he has been branded incompetent by his boss and blamed for the multi-billion shillings corruption scandal that is being investigated as at now. The story captured on page 6 of the People Daily. And you've been following up on the same, I'd want to believe. What is your take on this? Just how successful are we likely to be?
I mean, it's very unfortunate. Yesterday, I followed the proceedings, and they were even saying that they didn't receive some of the packages from Jack Ma. I wish Jack Ma could step forward, because given chance to choose between government and Jack Ma, who's telling the truth, I'd obviously, like any Kenyan, side with Jack Ma because of the history that we know with this government. They've been lying all through. So it is something that is so unfortunate, and I felt like the CEO is being pushed to the corner, and in as much as they participated in this theft, all of them, it's like now they want to sacrifice one individual. And we've seen this happening in various institutions. We saw in NYS, whereby the governor, Excellency Anwar Guru, walked scot-free and left a lot of others suffering behind, the small people. So I think it's a habit. It's a habit. People must be careful when they're in offices, especially accountants. I'm not business, but I would be very careful not to act on orders without writing. I mean, these phone call orders that so and so has given an order, you should give tender to so and so. These are things that the who is who in the country, they would leave. They want to put the small persons, like now the CEO, to act as a sacrificial lamb. You can see the PS has been mentioned at firstly, the CS as well. But when you try to look at it, it's like they may walk away with it.
Yeah.
It is so absurd that each time we lose our money, we are not even told whether the money was retrieved from the thieves. We don't see substantive cases being prosecuted in courts. So it is something that is going on, and most probably, it's gonna bring our economy down, even in East Africa, if we are not keen with this level of corruption. I think right now we are even leading in the region in terms of corruption.
Yeah.
So this is something that we really need to, and I think I'd like to also advise Kenyans. Let us not be a nation that forgets things so easily, because even this one of KEMSA, I think in 2 weeks it will be done and Kenyans would have forgotten. Let us step up. Let us be active citizens, the way Boniface Mwangi says, and whenever there's an opportunity to show the government that we are not pleased with their actions of stealing even money for the sick. And you see, they used to say that it's Ruto who's corrupt. So we are surprised that even after they have isolated the deputy president, that is when they've exposed themselves. This is a very unfortunate situation, and people like Mzee Raila Odinga should not be associating themselves with such a government or such people who steal money, including of money meant for people who are dying.
And lastly,
he will. Yes.
Sorry for cutting you short. Lastly, still on the same note, now that you mentioned the Deputy President William Ruto, page 4 of the People Daily, leaders take on DP Ruto as they tour projects. That is, of course, the CSs. You heard them say that it is unnecessary for the country to conduct such campaigns or campaigns at this particular time. So leaders query Martim visit to Ruto Karen home, and they say that efforts in hosting the delegation should be put in conserving environment conservation as opposed to addressing matters politics 2022 as it's now. So briefly on this as we get to wind up.
I think they are being unfair to the deputy president, because the deputy president, like any other Kenyan, has all the rights to invite guests to his home, to meet anybody that they will. I think these cabinet secretaries are just too idle, especially the environment cabinet secretary Tobiko, because you cannot start saying, and actually it's unfortunate because this is his boss. We are living at times, very, very funny times, because even the president himself, when he allows these cabinet secretaries to start posturing in a way that as though they are fighting the deputy president, they have to understand that the effects will trickle down to even smaller offices. Right now, you'll realize that even they talk about the deep state. You know, I see people saying that deep state is comprised of the likes of Cabinet Secretary Matiang'i, the likes of Murade and Atuoli. Let me tell Kenyans today, because I've seen this issue, even the scholars are avoiding it. The deep state entails the military service, the intelligence service, the judiciary, and the security, which is the police. So in any case, if there's a deep state that is supposed to advise the president, those are the people who are supposed to advise the president. And even this issue of saying that the deep state will determine who will be the president in 2022. Sometimes we have to understand, we forget that it is the deep state that annulled the elections of Uhuru Kenyatta, because judiciary is part of the deep state. Even if we check on this name emanated from Turkey, whereby it was believed that some people in those 4 institutions I've mentioned were controlling the decisions of government. And people must understand the difference between the state and the government, because these people like Matiang'i and Tobiko, they are not permanently placed there. Governments always go. Governments are not permanent, but the state is permanent. So I think these are people, I'd like to say that our cabinet secretary There's a lot of work you need to do. People are dying of hunger. Go to the villages, go to Kibera here, and you'll find people languishing with hunger.
Right.
You don't go to eat nyamatoma and castigating the poor. You know, we the poor, when we go to visit the deputy president, most of Kenyans are going there with their problems and trying to associate with their leader.
Oh.
I don't think it is fair, and if things go that way, if they are going to push the deputy president to a corner, then they will see supporters rising up and saying no. This
And
is
he would probably
unfair.
garner some sympathy votes, as you say.
Exactly.
All right. Well, interesting. Because we do not have time, we'll not be able to go much through the Standard newspaper. But all the same, the key stories that are captured on the front page, if you realize that the same stories that we've been going through. And of course, showdown over Bubado Oyster plot. I think we've looked at that. The KEMSA scandal right here. We have also looked at that extensively, expounded on page 6. And that's more like it on the key stories on the Standard newspaper. Shock of teens secretly put on contraceptives. That is a conversation that we had yesterday right here on Morning Cafe. And we're talking about family planning, and we had a guy now on board, so you can grab that conversation later on our social media platforms. And I think it's only fair that we get to wind it up from there as we cross over to a different segment altogether. Frank Anyona, who's a youth leader and analyst, that is political analyst, thank you so much for your insights. Let's now cross over to a different segment. Thank you, Frank, once again.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you.
All right.
Mount Kenya University takes pride in being an academic giant with some of the best infrastructure, imparting knowledge to the best brains in the country and the region. Our members of faculty are keen to deliver market-driven programs in science and humanities with a keen focus on linkages with relevant organizations. We admit both self-sponsored and government-sponsored students under the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service. Join us today and train with the best to become the best. Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities.
The coronavirus is spreading rapidly across the world, and currently there is no cure.